Hey everybody, it's Ken Komet, condovoice.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I want to talk about problem solving. In particular, I've got a repair project here, and I want to also talk about being resourceful. Now I'm going to show you how we repaired this post, and it's a simple thing. A car backed into a planter in a parking lot, a raised planter, a raised wood planter, and even though it was heavily bracketed, we had some problems with it, and so now we got to make the repair. Well, this isn't something you just pull off the shelf and do. So there's a saying, teach a man or a woman to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. If you just go catch them a fish, you've fed them for a day, but the day thing doesn't really work that well. So the way I want to look at this project is I want to, more than show you how we fix this particular project, which is just symbolic of problem solving, I want to emphasize to you how to problem solve. You know, when I became a property manager a long time ago, already in life, even as a young man, I had learned how to do many things. I put my way through college as a maintenance man, then they asked me to be a security guard, then I cleaned pools, all for the same property management company. And, you know, I cleaned carpets, gosh, I did everything. And I remember the kind old man that introduced me, and I rode around in the truck with him. He was my boss. He was a nice old guy, and he said, look, you know, you always have to be valuable. And a couple things, just don't get sick. Okay, but don't get hurt. And then I said, well, how do I fix things? I don't know. Nobody's ever taught me. And he said, well, you just have to be resourceful. So for example, he says, look, if there's a light switch in a unit that doesn't work, go to a unit where one does work. Take it apart, look at it, and remember it. We didn't have cell phones back then. And then he said, then go back to the one that's broken, look at it and see what's different. So it's very simple, and you have to use common sense, which unfortunately is not so common, but you can desire to have it. You can desire to be a resourceful person. You can learn how to problem solve. It's another way for your brain to think. You know, there's poets, there's architects, there's accountants, there's mechanics, there's writers, there's painters, there's all kinds of people. And our brains are all wired a certain way when we're born, I believe. And then we have an environment we grow up in, we model other people around us, we think how they think. Because I think essentially we are what other people make us to be, but we're also in control of ourselves and our own destiny. So we may have been given, you know, a start in life, maybe by others, you know, modeling others, being around others, learning from them. But when we become adults, we can figure life out for ourselves. So what I'm trying to show you here is how we fix this post. But what I'm really saying is, regardless of what problem you have to solve, there's an innate thing within you that says, I can do this. I can figure it out by myself. If you have to ask people, great. If you have to go to resources, great. But at the end of the day, you can fix it yourself. So I remember being a property manager my first day on the job, and I had no training, none whatsoever. I was given 12, 14 properties to manage and said, go manage them. So, you know, I was obviously given the least preferred properties because, like, hey, whatever. The kid fails, we lose the property, it's the way it goes. It's better doing that, apparently, than spending all the money to train me. And in fact, really, when you're a property manager, you have to know a lot about a lot of things. You have to know all the trades. You have to know the admin. You have to know the law. You have to know all these things to the degree where you can be a valuable service. And at least you can know who to call. You know, a lot of times when you come over a problem, whether it's administrative or physical property damage, you have to know what your resources are. You have to be resourceful on how to use those resources, and then make a decision on how you're going to fix it. No matter what it is, maybe it's a squabble between homeowners, but property managers, even board members, have to know these things, how to problem solve. Anyway, I want to show you how we fix this post. And so stay tuned. We're going to take you step by step through that process, and then I'm going to add a few comments along the way. Okay, so what you see before me is the old post and the new post. So one of the things I want to talk to you about, and in being a property manager or a maintenance man on a property, you have to, when you have things that go wrong outside the office, on the property, in a remote location, whatever it is, a couple of tips there I want to leave you with. So one thing, you want to try and do everything you can in the shop rather than do it in the field. It's just, that covers everything. So for example, one of the things I did before I became property manager was I built cabinets and custom furniture. A friend of mine had a shop. I had graduated high school. I said, hey, what am I going to do? I had just finished my vocational training, which was architectural and civil engineering and land surveying. I tried a little land surveying, didn't really like that field work. Didn't like the snakes and the things that bite and the danger that that had. So I tried a little drafting. I really didn't care for that. So anyway, I took a break. A friend of mine had a shop, and we made the darndest things. I'll tell you, we made the most fascinating furniture. It was all custom, and it was all high-end. We went into famous people's houses, and we built custom shelving and cabinets and, I don't know, ceilings. We did everything. And again, we had to be resourceful. We had to figure out how to do that. You know, custom work, like somebody has an idea and imagination, get it down on paper into something abstract or concrete, and then say, okay, is this what we want? Is this what we're going for? And then build it, and then have it be what they imagined. I mean, that takes a lot of skill and creativity and resourcefulness. So anyway, what I was getting at is what we did here was we took a field problem, okay, and we were asked to solve a field problem. There's nobody to call for this unless you have a resourceful handyman. You know, handyman are great things to have as a resource because, you know, if it's not a thing that you have to pull a permit for, because obviously they can't do that, but it's something remedial, it's something small, but it requires a couple of different trades. In this case, here's what we had. I'm going to show you. So this is the old post here. All right, let's see if I can lift it. This thing is heavy. So you can see what happened was this part right here was the post, and it rotted out. This was in a concrete parking lot, and the post originally had been put down in the concrete, and then the concrete poured around it. So the planters were built concrete around it. So what happened was we had interior corrosion, interior rot, you know, that we couldn't see forever and ever. We kind of knew this was going on, and these brackets weren't on here. So then, and I've managed this particular property for over 20 years, so I was involved in all of this. And anyway, so they said, okay, what are we going to do? Well, you can't really take the posts out of the concrete, and some of the posts were starting to look a little rotted. So rather than replace the post, which would have been a huge deal, we probably would have had to replace the whole planters. Cost savings, we went with these brackets. So I had these brackets made up in heavy steel. These are, I think they're 1/4 inch, it might even be 3/8 steel. So we had the guy go out from the welding shop, he measured the things, and he made us up, I don't know, 50, 60, 75 of these brackets. So what we did was we mounted the brackets with wedge anchor bolts in the concrete, and it came up through these holes here, okay? And then we bolted, okay, see the bolts in there? That to the existing post. So essentially what happened was these brackets now took the entire weight of what the post was doing. So we transferred the structural from the wooden post to the steel. And all the post was doing was just basically holding the steel in place. So in this case what happened was a car hit it. So he actually bent this bracket. This bracket was flat. See how much, it used to be on a 90, and now it's on like a 60. So we tried bending that back, and we just gave up on fixing this. It just so happened that I was involved in that project a long time ago. So we had a couple of older brackets. We had a couple leftovers from the order. We always order a couple extra. We didn't need them. And we had an old bracket or two that we saved and we put in the maintenance room. So these have been there for 10 years. But guess what? They came in real handy because these days, it takes forever to get anything manufactured. So we would have had gone back to a welder, and that guy's out of business. So we had to find somebody, say, look, make me up this bracket. And we'd have to maybe take one off, take it to him, say, look, make it exactly like this so it marries up with the others. we obviously had the paint. So, I actually did this today. I spent the whole day saying, well, look, I can't find anybody to do this. I can't even explain to somebody what it is I want. Even the maintenance guys that I have, it's not going to work. They don't really get it. And they didn't have the equipment or the know-how to be able to do this. So, plus it's a weekend. We got a little bit of an emergency thing. We don't want this wall to fall down. So tomorrow, it's a weekend day, and I'm going to give this to one of my top maintenance guys, and he's going to go install it. So, I want to show you a couple of things right here. You see this corrosion that happened, this rot? So this rot was in the concrete. We couldn't see it happening. The brackets were hiding it, and we just couldn't see it. There's something about a point about corrosion or things that are out of mind, out of sight, that happen. And this applies to some other things that are much more serious. This is just a planter, but the same process applies. So what happens is you go on with your busy life in your condo, your HOA, or your home, and you don't realize what's going on. So what happens is water gets into these bolts and stuff. I'm just backing out a bolt here that was in here. And I'm going to show you how corroded that is. See, it's really rusted. It's a lag bolt, galvanized lag bolt that was used to install this bracket. So it's doing a job, but it's also corroding. At some point, that corrosion eats up the threads and it loses its pull-out friction quota here. So it can pull out very easily. In this case, these actually held up, but the bracket itself actually bent. So the bolt held it in place, and so actually this car must have looked like a mess. I don't know who hit it, but I gotta imagine there's a lot of damage to it in a parking lot. So it bent the steel. I tried to bend that back with a sledgehammer, no go. So I'm telling you right now, that was a lot of force on this thing. So the design that we had built did its job. The post inside broke off. So what we're gonna do is just install, we got a new piece of 4x4, and we're gonna put that in, where the old one was. And we're just gonna clean off the bottom. We're just gonna set the 4x4 on top of what's left in there, and we're gonna put our brackets in. And once again, the brackets are gonna be the structure. This post is basically decorative, and it serves the purpose of holding these two together, just holding the bracket in place. And if it does that, it's doing its job. So it's not the structural support. We've transferred the structural support for this problem to these two brackets. So that's how we fixed the planter in the first place, and that's how we're going to fix it now. I believe in keeping I believe in always ordering a few additional materials on a job, and storing them for later use, especially if it's a custom job. In this case, we had ordered a few extra brackets, and we hadn't needed them for 10 years. But for 10 years, it was worth keeping these things around. Didn't take up much room. And you know what? I remembered we had a few extra, and sure enough, they were. So what we did was we got these out. We sanded them all down because there was a little bit of age to it, just sitting around. Put 2 coats of sealer on it, and 1 coat of the paint, the green paint, that is going to be the finish coat. We're not gonna put 2 coats of paint on this because we're gonna go out and we're gonna install it. While we install this, we're gonna nick it up. And it's definitely gonna happen. So what we're gonna do is install it, and then we're gonna put our final coat on after we've installed it. I don't care that I got a solid coat on the backside. That's gonna be against this post. I don't care that I got a fantastic paint job on this one, especially where the bracket's gonna go. I have pre-mounted the brackets when I had the primer coat on. So I knew that this was going to be set right. So I've got this labeled so it goes a certain way with each bracket, because actually this is an old bracket. See where it's got the 4 holes in it? Okay. And 4 holes on the bottom. Okay. And this is a new bracket that has smaller holes. Okay. You can see the smaller holes in there. All right. And so these are going to take, I think, like number 10 screws, big long 2-inch number 10 screws, stainless screws. And these are going to take 3/8 lags. So, but that's okay because it's a planter. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this is going to be great. It's going to blend in. It's going to blend right in with the existing, and after a couple of weeks and a few rains and a little bit of dirt, it's going to blend in right with everything. So, when I prepped this post, a couple of little tips that go a long, long way. Whenever you work with wood outside, it's very important to, and I want to illustrate this with this damage, to not only paint and protect the outside, okay, the what you see, but also what you don't see. Because in fact, there's going to be more damage to this butt end, this end piece. If water's going to get into this end piece a lot quicker than it's going to get into this. Because this is an open grain. This is right with the grain. Okay, if you can see this, I don't think you can because I got so much paint on it. It's an open grain. It's going to absorb all the moisture. And that's what's going to cause the rot. Just like on this post here, if I turn this over, you see how nice that looks over there? Okay, but you see how rotted it is on the ends? The ends of any exterior wood are going to suck in the moisture. Whenever you build like a railing, or you build some place where you're going to have two pieces of wood put together, even if you're going to paint the outside after it goes up, what we do is we put on, it's called an anchor seal, I think. Actually, to tell you the truth, I didn't have any of that. I thought I had a can of that, so I was going to coat it. But I used a oil-based wood primer on the ends, and I put a couple of coats on that. I wanted to make sure I got my ends really sealed this time because I don't want that to rot out. You're going to see the rot if it happens on the open face of this board or even on the top of it, but I'm not going to know if it starts rotting out from the bottom. So anyway, I wanted to show you this, that, and show you basically how we did this. So once again, I had the resources. So okay, how am I going to solve this problem? I can't just call somebody. There's not a bracket post guy. You know, it's not a business. And these days, nobody wants to do small jobs like this, or they're going to charge you an absolute fortune. So it's better to do it in-house, as they say, if you can, if you have the resources to do that. In this case, I sure had a piece of 4x4. I had a longer piece. I just cut it to the same length. I had brackets I could reuse, or I would have had to come up with some other kind of bracket that looks like the other brackets, or I would have had to stop, do a temporary repair of some kind, okay, just to keep the planter from falling down. Although it's a heavy traffic area, that's the other issue. I couldn't just put a barricade up there. It wasn't going to work. And I would have had to gone to some sort of metal shop and waited my turn and paid probably, I'm telling you, something like this is going to cost me maybe $250 a piece to get these made. And I probably would have to wait a month to get it. So what was I going to do? Fortunately, I had the resources. Fortunately, I had the know-how. Fortunately, I had the time, my own time today, so I could give it to my maintenance guy. And you know, most people just don't do that, but I did it. So my website and what I do is really to assist you to DIY what you do. So, I mean, it's really easy to hire a contractor, but it's also better to know what you're hiring them for, okay? Or at least to have a game plan and say, hey, this is what I want to do. I've problem solved this thing, and I want you to do the work. That's fine too. I mean, you can hire other people to do it. You just have to still be that, you have to be resourceful. If you're a board member, especially if you're a property manager, I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that somebody doesn't call me and say, here's what happened. And right out of the blue, I'm going to have to, if I had no idea what happened, I have to listen really well, get my facts together, maybe call a few other people, get a few other perspectives on what's going on, maybe have to go out and look at it, the whole bit. It takes a lot of time to research what happened, get some pictures, explain to people. You're going to have a cost involved. You have to get that cost pre-approved. Well, you have to have the solution first. And if you don't have a lump sum cost solution, you're going to have to say, well, we're going to figure it out on the way of how much it's going to cost. But you can't not do it because you got a crisis. Okay, in this case, I don't want the planter to fall down. I don't want somebody to get hurt. I don't want to have a big, huge mess. I don't want a big rain to come and flood it all out and the dirt go in the parking lot and I got a big mess. You know, somebody's going to slip and fall. So it's got to get taken care of. You've got to do what you got to do. And you've got to be resourceful and you got to come up with a solution. Temporary or permanent, you still got to come up with a solution. So I could go catch a fish for you, but I'd rather teach you how to fish. And if you're going to DIY anything, that's a talent and a thing you just got to pick up and do. So I know I sound like I'm preaching a little bit, but I just hope that through what I'm saying, you kind of get what I'm saying. Because as I show you these things on my website and on my YouTube channel, I just want you all to realize you can figure this stuff out for yourself. I mean, happy the day that I don't have to make these videos and show this stuff, okay? happy today you're going to make your own videos and say, this is what I did, you know, and you can show others how to fix things too. So it's great to have a one-off and show somebody how to fix something. Hey, when my car's not running or something isn't working, I go to YouTube or I go to some Vimeo or I go someplace and I say, you know what, maybe somebody's got a video that shared it. So I can shorten my learning curve, or at least I can get some ideas how to be resourceful. Maybe that's not my fix, but you know what, it's close. And here's what I can take from that and apply it to my situation. That's the point of these videos. You're not going to have this particular situation, but you might have something similar. And you might say, you know, that's right, I could go get this made or I could get that made. I can fix this, I can fix that. Before you know it, you're becoming resourceful, and it's a great thing to know and have, because you can always use that. You can always apply it to each new situation that comes along. That's what I wanted to say today, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Come on down to condovoice.com if you got a problem. We got solutions, and we'd love to help you. We don't want to do it for you, but we will help you. We will help you get from A to B, and that's what I'm here for. So hope you enjoyed the video. You all have a great day.